So, Charlie's Angels has flopped in theaters, and here are my reasons why.
All you hear is gossip. Man, all I hear is gossip. Yeah, man, call it gossip.
So first of all, the movie was expected to make about $13 million on its opening weekend, and it has made $8 million. It is a flop, okay? And one of the things that I think caused this movie to not do so well was the cast. Now, the leading actresses were Naomi Scott, Kristen Stewart, and Ella Balinska. I may have mispronounced that. I'm really sorry if I did. And the thing is, the big name in that is Kristen Stewart, which is kind of like, I think a lot of people find her boring and not to be a great actress. So she's the one that's going to be pulling people into theaters. We're kind of in trouble here. You know, I recently saw Hustlers, and yeah, I didn't like that movie. I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't do well. But I went to see it mainly because of the cast. Like, I was like, okay, I want to see Lizzo. I want to see Cardi B. I heard J-Lo looked amazing, which she did, to the point that I now want to get some pole dancing classes so I can get my body right and tight, just like hers. I mean, she killed. She killed it. Her body looked amazing. The movie in itself, like, the plot wasn't that great, but at the same time, it got me out there. I paid for it. I watched it. Whereas Charlie's Angels, do we really need another remake? And it's just like, I'm not interested in any of the actresses playing the role, so why would I go watch this? Like, there's nothing to pull people in, and I think that's the biggest problem. And then there's also the fact that people weren't really checking for Charlie's Angels. I mean, I remember watching the one with Lucy Liu, Drew Barrymore, and Cameron Diaz, and that version, I watched it mainly because I really like Lucy Liu. Like, she pulled me into that movie. But it's not like it was an amazing movie that I would go watch again. And then when you watch the trailer to this one, a lot of people were calling it corny. Like, they're like, ooh, I can't even get through this. This is boring. This is not great. It just doesn't look very appealing, very original. It's just, yeah, the plot in itself doesn't look that great. Now, also, you have, going back to these three actresses, they don't really seem very believable. Like, I feel like I would not want to get into a fight with Lucy Liu. Like, I feel like she would beat me up. These three actresses, it's just kind of like, I ain't scared. Like, Kristen Stewart, really, girl? Yeah, it's just not as believable that they would be these, really strong fighter girls that get ish done. It just wasn't that believable. And even the parts that were supposed to be lighthearted and funny just kind of were like, they fell flat, basically. So, yeah, it doesn't seem like there's a redeeming quality that would at least get you out to go watch this movie. After seeing that the movie flopped, I went to go watch the trailer because I hadn't even bothered. That's how uninterested I was. Because, just from seeing, I saw the Ariana Grande music or song. I'm not even sure if it's hers or if she's featured in it. The Don't Call Me Angel, pretty sure it's hers. Anyway, the point is that song didn't really do it for me. It didn't make me interested in the movie, and the actress, the leading actors in the film weren't that interesting. So I didn't even watch the trailer. And when I watched the trailer, I was like, oh god, like, it just doesn't seem good, unfortunately. Yeah. I mean, you also have to think about the premise of the original Charlie's Angels. I mean, it was really popular back then, but the image of, feminism back then is also very different from what it is today. So back then, you have these powerful female characters, but it was also marketed on sex appeal. And so it was like really at odds with like the supposed feminist agenda that it has. So even back then, there was a bit of like issues with the fact that it's supposed to be this really female empowerment sort of TV show, but also it was all on the sex appeal of the leads. So the thing is that back then, the people that would have loved the movie would have loved it for that as well. Whereas like now, or, like currently, the idea of feminism is just completely different. And you can't pitch a movie on like female empowerment through having them wear super tight clothes and be super sexy and things like that. So they would have to revisit it and change that aspect of it. But it also loses what made it popular at the same time. You see the conundrum? It's kind of like hard to reshape what it was in a way that would work today without losing what made it popular back then. And it was only popular for a bit of time. Like, it didn't last for that long. But yeah, so I think that is one of the issues with Charlie's Angels as well. Not to mention that it seems to have a bit of an identity crisis. Like, it's not an action movie, even though the previous Charlie's Angels have had a lot of action, which is problematic in itself because you don't just take the action out of Charlie's Angels. I think, to be honest, when I think Charlie's Angels, that's what makes Charlie's Angels. At least when I think of like the Lucy Liu, Drew Barrymore, Cameron Diaz version. So it's not an action movie. It's not a comedy, but it has comedic effects and it's more feminist. More feminist how? It's really not clear the direction that they wanted to take in, so it's not as appealing as well. And it doesn't make sense why they took this route. It's not a clear understanding, which also adds to the why reboot this movie. Like, what's the reason? What did we miss out on the first one that this one now has, or the second one rather? When I say the first one, I'm talking about the Cameron Diaz, Drew Barrymore, Lucy Liu version, not the all the way back in the 80s before I was even born movie with Farrah Fawcett. So yeah, it's just not. It doesn't seem to have as a clear of a focus as it did. And now I've been trying to understand why it flopped. And apparently bigger names didn't want to be a part of the film because of the plot. Like, apparently there were several writers and there was like an issue with with that aspect. You had several different writers in and out. And because of the script, top talent didn't want to be a part of it. Like, yes, which makes sense. So that's why production decided to go for a fresh face. But if you're going to choose, the thing is that Kristen Stewart hasn't been around for a while. So it's not like she can pull in her Twilight fans. And she also has distanced herself from it too. So I don't think she has the pull. They really needed to find an actress that would have had that pull. And hearing with all the issues that they had, it might have already turned off people before it even got released. These issues with the writers, with changing the dates, the release dates, and also the fact that you have this woke agenda that seemed to have turned off a lot of people. So I found this comment and I feel like it summarizes it really well. It says, "It's amazing that you can waffle on and on but only address the proverbial elephant in the room in the final paragraph. Bad movies with lousy scripts succeed all the time, so you can drop the claim that the story is the problem. What's killing this is the woke factor. Audiences love seeing strong women in action movies, but they get seriously irritated when it's seen to be at the expense of men. Mocking men and belittling them might make some lesbian story executive in Hollywood happy, but it's not going to persuade viewers to watch your movie. And this goes for female viewers also. Most women don't really like the feeling that a movie has an agenda against man, or can only define its female characters as strong via stream of sneering put-downs against the opposite sex. So long as Hollywood keeps plowing this particular furrow, flaunting a thinly disguised contempt for half its audience, these movies will continue to stiff at the box office." Now, this has been a popular comment amongst people talking about this movie. It seems like a lot of people didn't like the feeling that it had this message, this hidden agenda message that was going to be shoved down our throats. But in a way, in my opinion, it's not even like done in like a good way, if that makes sense. Like, you can have female empowerment in a way that actually makes you feel empowered. Like, I can't think of anything in this movie just by watching the trailer that I'd be like, yeah, we rock, yes. That's my personal opinion. I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know the aspect that she's referring to when she's like, oh, it's bashing men, it's belittling them, etc. I don't know that aspect, but I have noticed a common theme with people not liking the fact that this was supposed to be woke, quote unquote, and it doesn't seem like it is at all. I mean, that's just my take on it. Anyway, have you seen this movie? Will you be seeing this movie? What are your thoughts on it? I mean, to be honest, I find it to be a little cringy, and I none of this surprises me. But what are your thoughts? Let's talk in the comments. All right, guys, I will catch you in the next one. Bye.
Man, call it gossip.